Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Connected with Cari here on Jess TV, Jess FM. We are streaming through Underground Radio C. We are also streaming through the Roku TV station 101, NCG Television Network in Italy. We're all over the place, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. We are all across the board, including LinkedIn. I have to give a shout out to my LinkedIn peeps. You guys are all amazing. Please make sure to like the stream, share it if you can, give some love to my guest. Thank you, everyone. This is now, we're season 8. It's been, we're getting closer to the end of season 8, I would have to say. It's been a wonderful, I want to say few months. It's actually been, I think, 6 months of season 8 already. You can go back and see all my guests that have been on the show at underground_radio_C on Instagram. I like to call it my little guest resume, if you will. That's usually where everyone is. So thank you everyone for tuning in on this beautiful, warm, sunny Saturday evening here in Calgary. If you're not in Calgary, put in a chat where you're from, because I would like to know where you guys are. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the show at any time, and we will try and get to them as best as we can. So this evening with me, we have Jessica.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the show. Glad you could make it on this beautiful sunny Saturday evening, whereas some people would be out enjoying some dinner. I don't know if patios are open yet, but
Yeah,
it's almost
some of them
patio
are.
season. Yeah. And you could be out for a movie. All the new movies are coming out. So, so I appreciate all your time and coming on this evening. We are very appreciative. So please introduce yourself, who you are, maybe a little bit why you decided to be interviewed, and a little
Sure.
bit about, your business or a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
First, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a great show, I'm sure. My name is Jessica. I've lived in Calgary for, oh my goodness, over a decade. I've been working in the personal and business development space for over a decade as well. I help people start, stabilize, and scale their businesses. I also help them with grant writing. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. And I decided to go ahead with this interview today because I have never done one before. So I thought I should get outside my comfort zone and give it a go.
Right. Well, I mean, that's just a little bit about yourself. Okay. What I have to say is that, okay, when I get a bio in from my guests, it's like they underestimate themselves and they don't really give so much about themselves. I don't know if it's a nervous thing or if, because I'm like, introduce yourself. You have like tons of time to get into the nitty gritty of who you are and what you do. But we're going to do that now, because when I get a biography from someone and I read it and I realize there's just a little bit more to their story than why they're just on the show to promote their business or to promote music or promote a book or whatever it may be that they decide to come on, or just, to add something to their resume for their media. I think, getting into the nitty gritties of also really of who you are, because as I read your bio, there's a whole lot that you've been through. Like there's this huge journey that you have been through to kind of get to where you are today. So maybe get into a little bit, actually, not even a little bit, get into depth with us on your journey, because it's not just a little journey. I think it's a massive journey that you have been on to get to where you are today. And I would love for you to share that, some, you know, the nitty gritty of it all, the sorrow, the joy, and just some things you overcame. That would be truly amazing.
Okay. Well, I guess we could start from the beginning. When I was young, I was adopted when I was about 3.5 years old by my biological aunt and uncle. My adopted mother, her sister was my biological mother, and she passed away when I was quite young. She was going through her own personal struggles, and I ended up being neglected and essentially abandoned. So the first 5 years of anybody's life sort of sets a standard for the normal. This is something that I learned through my own personal development journey into why I sort of would have certain tendencies when I was younger. And so that was one struggle in itself. I'm coming to terms with, why she wasn't able to take care of me, um, and essentially what led to me being adopted. My adoptive family, I'm so eternally grateful for, because they they didn't give up on me, and I wasn't the easiest to raise. So um, there was a lot of different things we tried. I did various therapies. I did anger management. Um, I went to respite to give my family a break because I was very intense. I had to learn how to regulate my emotions. Like, that's the sort of stuff that the average kid can kind of figure out, in social things at school. It was just a little bit harder for me. And some extra help. And then, so let me think here. How should I go through this timeline? um, High school was like high school. Everyone hates high school, I think, except for the popular kids. And even them, they probably have it too. So I'll just kind of skip over that part. um, I graduated from a secondary school that was for, it was a smaller school that they gave you the freedom to go through the courses at your own pace. And I ended up graduating quicker and with honors in that school. So it was a much better way for me to was in that type of setting. From there, I moved away. I moved right away to the next town. I worked 2 jobs there, and I was drinking quite a bit. I'd work and I'd go and hang out with my friends and have drinks and repeat, repeat, repeat. I didn't realize it was any sort of problem at the time until I got diagnosed with a blood disorder, which is called ITP. And for those of you who don't know, that is a blood disorder where your white blood cells destroy your platelets. And in my case, it was happening in my spleen. So what this means is that I wasn't healing properly. And just to kind of give me a little bit more understanding of what that meant exactly. They said, if you ate a bag of chips today, it was very likely that if you didn't chew it enough, you could have got cut on your esophagus on the way down. And you would have bled out before anybody could figure out what was wrong with you, because it's not the average sort of illness that they see. So that kind of scared the life into me again. It was really easy for me to stop drinking at that point because I didn't really see it as something that I needed. I was just doing it for fun. So I stopped drinking. They weaned me off alcohol in the hospital because they were worried that I was going to have a seizure. And that was a hard time. I had to quit my jobs. I had to move back home. So I had spent all this time and energy building my independence. And then now all of a sudden I have to give it all up and go home, back to my parents' house, lived with them again. I had to travel back and forth to Vancouver every month. And essentially I was like a little lab bunny. They were giving me multiple blood tests a day. I had to do bone marrow tests. They tried blood transfusions. I lost track of the ways that they were testing me. And then it came down to getting my spleen removed. Actually, prior to that, they tried me on steroids, which were awful. I did not enjoy that experience at all. I tried to get them to skip that part of the treatment process. They said that in order to get to the taking out of the spleen, they had to do certain things first. And so subject to the system and what they were allowing us to do at the time. Eventually, I did get my spleen removed, and now I have one of a kind gnarly scar that's the length of my rib cage. I had 32 metal staples that I was allergic to because I'm allergic to surgical steel, which they seemed to miss in my file when they were stitching me up. So they had to have a home care nurse actually come and remove them. They didn't it was excruciatingly painful. And from then on, I had a recovery period. And then I finally moved to Chilliwack, and that was because it was close to my hematologist in Vancouver. Got back on my feet, um, dipped back into partying a little bit, stopped again, learned more about healthy lifestyles, started going to the gym for the first time that time. So I was in my early 20s when I first started going to the gym. Where did I go from there? From there, I went to Edmonton, to Calgary, to Kamloops, back to Calgary, and then I stayed here. And when I was in Kamloops, I got a horse. It was really fun. I saved him from, let's say, less than desirable circumstances. And that was a really fun time because it got me back to my roots. I grew up with horses, so it was nice to get back to that. From there, when I came back to Calgary, I was always doing personal development things and learning, reading lots of books. I didn't want to. I guess I never was the kind of person that thought I knew everything yet. Felt I had deep desire for understanding, and I liked it when people would challenge what I thought because I was open to different perspectives, and I still am. So personal journeys is why I decided to help people that went through similar things, right? Like if I can utilize what I've learned and share it with other people, then, maybe they won't feel so alone and they can feel like they're not the only ones and avoid similar mistakes that I made. Personal and business development. That's started with personal and gradually evolved into business, mainly because people in business, when they have problems, 90% of the time it stems back to a personal issue that they're not facing head on, and it creeps up in their business work. So that nitty gritty for you.
Oh my goodness, that's a story in itself. I think, one of the hardest things is not knowing who your family is, for one thing, and not thinking that you have a support system. But it really sounds like your aunt and uncle stepped up to be your wonderful parents in the situation, which is incredible because, like, some kids that do, like, are in the adoption system either don't get adopted or not, within a certain time, like they're kind of stuck in a situation where they're foster to foster to foster. So you were very lucky to be able to have loving family to be able to take you on and just be like, okay, they knew who your parents were and they could take care of you the way that probably that they wanted, which is amazing. But then going into one of those situations of like a health scare, kind of not knowing what it was, but then finding out what it was is just in itself one of those journeys that it is a journey all on its own. Never mind, growing up and wondering who your parents were, maybe, or however it was, like maybe they did know again, but just like those certain struggles of getting through just one thing and then going through and having another thing. So as a business owner myself, I can kind of see why, like you said, the personal attaching to the business side, because even as a business owner, there's times I just struggle and I'm just like, oh, what should I do here? And what should I do there? And then I'm like, oh, no one supports me. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And I think like, oh, people are, you know, never here and support. And then I'm like, okay, this is stupid. I'm like, I have such a loving family and loving support. I think my mom goes and likes all my posts and watches all my shows. And I'm like, this is utterly ridiculous. So getting to the business side now, how are some ways that, you kind of touched upon that, okay, you're talking about like their personal struggles through it and maybe what, kind of getting through that, but how would they kind of relate to each other? How do they coincide? And what can you do for somebody in that situation if you go, okay, oh, obviously it's linked to something when they're little. How do you find that and help them to overcome that?
Well, first, I'd like to say I'm not a therapist by any means. I simply I guess so. I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody comes to me and they've hit a threshold in their business, and they want to bring on more clients, or they want to increase their rates, or they want to do something that kind of gets them past where they are, but they're not exactly sure how to do it. It boils down to a mental block that they have, some story that they're telling themselves. So I figure out what that is by listening and by asking questions. I share stories once in a while, but mainly it's simply just asking questions, and it's knowing when not to talk.
Okay, so what do you find is probably one of the biggest struggles that everyone sort of seems to have, whether it's an imposter syndrome or whether it's just maybe a block of some kind? What do you find is, one of the themes along with being someone in, being an entrepreneur?
Sorry, you cut out at the beginning there. So you said something. What did you say before imposter syndrome?
Oh, for your clients, what do you think their biggest struggles have been, or something that's very similar within each of the clients?
Well, everybody is so different. So I don't want to say that there's common stream. The common stream itself is it it a lot of the times boils something that's going on in their personal life, in their own mindset. Um, and it doesn't always happen back to childhood or some traumatic event. It could be something that happened 2 weeks ago when somebody's kid said some offhanded comment and it poked at some string, and the parent can't seem to let it go. They're stewing on it or something, right? And so I offer a perspective. I offer them perspectives from other people that I've encountered, and my own perspective as well, and the child's perspective. And usually that helps.
Yeah, that sounds something that would be good to do, because then it's like, that's the thing. We all kind of go, oh, I look at it from my perspective. Okay, this is what's going on. So often it's true. Like we need someone else to come in, the outsider view, and kind of go, hey, I see it as, maybe it is something from your past that's eating you. And let's look at this and maybe we can overcome it together, or however it may be. So I commend you on that, because we don't want to have just like, okay, one avenue, like this is your answer and go for it, like this is the solution, right? Can you give us, if you can, I don't know, some client testimonials? You don't have to say names or anything like that, but just some works that maybe you're proud of that a lot, your clients sort of overcame.
Well, one that came to mind initially was a company I was helping. They wanted to grow. They were having trouble finding the right person to bring into their business to help them scale. I helped him find his second in command, basically, and it took their business to the next level because this person could take a lot off of his plate and let him focus on his high income producing activities. And this other individual was able to do quotes, go to job sites, do all the other things. He actually did write a testimonial saying that I'm worth my weight in gold. So that felt really good.
Aw, that is so sweet. Worth your spleen and gold. I'm just kidding. Couldn't imagine losing an organ like that, but that just kind of surprises me still. But I can imagine, you know, clients that they just love you, right? They're like, oh, you helped me so much. And, they give recommendations and referrals. And that's kind of what it's about when you want to connect with businesses. You have personal stories to tell, and then you can say, look, I've been down this path where, yeah, it was a really hard time in my life. I can understand, you're talking to your client and tell them you understand where they're coming from, how to maybe overcome something. And then, you get them through it sort of step by step and go, hey, this is, how I can help you. Let's look at this avenue. Have there been times, what has been maybe the roughest go of your business that you would have to say? I don't know if it was maybe starting out or just some things you had to learn along the way.
Well, first, I want to make a comment about the spleen again because I try to make light of it a little bit. So when people talk, like when I share that a little bit about my story, I say, "Yeah, my white blood cells were destroying my platelets in my spleen, and I call it the spleen of the crime."
My goodness. Okay, that was a good one.
Yeah. And so, okay, but to answer your question about one of the toughest times in my business, I think, would be when I was trying to practice what I preach, in that I wanted to build my team. I was a one woman show. Still am a one woman show to a certain degree, but I use subcontractors now, so that's good. Um, and I wanted to find a coach that was senior to me, somebody that would be able to help more of the larger size businesses that I was coming into contact with. I didn't quite feel so confident with them, and the experience that I had to help them with taking their business to the next level, because I hadn't done it with my own yet. And so I had found somebody to help me with that, and it didn't end well. I didn't trust my gut. I tried to do what everybody else was saying I should do instead of listening to myself and trusting myself. And I essentially lost everything. I had to like start from scratch and rebuild and get my hands dirty all over again, I guess you could say. So, and I'm rebuilding. I rebuilt enough now to where I can add another service, which is grant writing. I took a advanced grant writing course, so I help people define their projects, establish their budget, figure out what grants they can qualify for, help them develop a master grant application. But I essentially lost everything and had to rebuild again from scratch. And when you do that, you can I'm going to use a quote that's from the Bahamas. You build back better.
It's so funny you build back better. That's true. I think that learning curve is always one of those things where it's just like, okay, you learn from it, you try and go, okay, well, crap, that didn't work. And how else, can you do? And then again, like you said, it's those building blocks of being an entrepreneur that, okay, what works, what doesn't work, and having humility, I think is key because sometimes we think we know it all, but we definitely don't. And so, yeah, it's always nice to be able to have someone that we can, mentor of some kind, or just be able to go and talk to somebody and say, hey, how can we do this and how can we do it better, right? Because the rebuilding is definitely key above everything. What do you think, you know, because you've been in your business for a little while longer, do you have any substantial goals with it within, I want to say the short-term goals, but do you have like the big goal? Like I want to have practices all over Canada, or I want to, be coaching whatever businesses. Do you have like a grander scheme of things, if you will?
Yeah, I do. So I get a lot of joy and happiness from helping people see their potential and realize it. So sometimes that's not always with businesses, but that's just with believing in themselves. And sometimes it's just somebody willing to listen and have a conversation. So I like to spend my time getting to know new people. Sometimes it doesn't end up resulting in businesses or business development practices, but I still enjoy it. That feeds my soul. So when it comes to my my bigger vision, my grand vision, I guess, if you will, is I want to help as many people as I can realize and achieve their potential and basically build more happy, healthy, balanced lifestyles. And it's accumulation of things, not just business development, but it's knowing what's good for your body and health. It's having proper habits in place so that way you can spend time with your family. It's knowing who you are and loving who you are. And so if I can help other people get to that point so they can see their potential, then I think that's my definition of success for today. Even I guess, yeah, that's
Yeah, absolutely. That's, as they say, if your cup isn't full, then, you can't pour into another kind of cup, right? That's always what they say. And I think that is important to find out, how are we loving ourselves and how can we feed that into our businesses and not. I think one thing too is as an entrepreneur is sometimes I think we want to work and work and work and work, which is great, but now, I've been in my business, I think 4 years. So I'm like, okay, we're going to find that balance because if you don't find a happy balance, then I find like the stress can be overcoming. And then it's like, oh, you're overthinking, like, oh, did I do this right or that right? Or did I get back to somebody? And it's just like that ball of just like, I think it'd be anxiety and stress. And then, of course, your health is going to follow suit if you're not taking care of even just your mental health, I think too. So, what can you say a little bit about mental health that you might help everyone with?
Well, again, I'm going to say I'm not a therapist and I'm not a mental health guru or anything like that. I just have learned from my own experiences and I want to share that with people. So, I guess to touch on the point you were talking about balance, I used to preach balance a lot, a lot. And then I learned a little bit more about integration. So, especially when you're a busy entrepreneur and when you're juggling a whole bunch of different things, it can be hard to find time to fit in the gym, or you just like really at the end of the day, last thing you want to go do is go to the gym, right? You just want to kick your feet up and turn your brain off for a minute and just relax. But so I started figuring out ways that I combine responsibilities and goals and tasks and things. So for example, I would have a lot of meetings. I would, and some of them that are in town in the summer, I would say, hey, let's grab a coffee and go for a walk. So, I get a little bit of exercise. We still connect. We're doing something outside. So we're getting fresh air. So that's something I think about when it comes to mental health and balance. It's more of an integration process and having a good solid routine that works for you. Not everyone's the same. I can give you an example. For me, my solid routine that makes me show up for everybody in a solid way and be able to really give my all is when I do my morning meditation and I do my stretches and I read my book and I write in my 5-minute journal. And for some people, they don't do that stuff till partway through the day, right? They get up, they grab coffee, they go to work, and then they take a break, and then they do their mental health things that help them, ground themselves and come back to show up for the people that they're, helping through their things. So there's no one size fits all. And if you're not the kind of person that can wake up in the morning and have meditation for a half an hour, that's totally cool. There's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. I think, like you said, it's not one size fits all, as you said. And I think also when you said integration, I've heard of also, yeah, just book it, like book your own gym slot, book your own whatever, just like you would for booking in clients, book yourself in as well, if
Yes.
that works for you,
If
right?
you live out of your calendar like I do, scheduling that stuff is really important because otherwise things come up, right?
Hmm. Right. Oh yeah. And then it's like, oh shoot, I wanted to go to the gym 2 days ago and that didn't happen. And
Yeah. And I'm
exactly.
not perfect. I bailed on the gym yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. That's the thing. You have to don't beat yourself up over it for sure. And then it's like, as
And
long,
no one,
like you said, even just a walk feels good. Go down to go walk and get yourself a coffee and come back.
and know when to like give yourself a break. Like if you're working 8, 10 hours a day and let's say you want to hang out with your friends, but you're just tired. Let yourself be tired. Don't fight it. Like your body's trying to tell you something, so you should listen to it.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to wrap up. But first, is there anything you would like to share with the audience? Any tidbits or any knowledge you would like to bestow on everyone?
Um, I just love yourself and do the best you can with what you got and try to learn some more so you can do better tomorrow.
Oh, that's short and sweet. I love that. That's so cute. Okay, please let us know where everyone can find you, your
Sure.
socials, and all that good stuff.
So you can find me. My website is www.petleypc.com. That's PETLEYPC.com. That's where you can learn. Well, my story is there, and you can learn a little bit more about the services that I offer. My Instagram and Facebook is at Petley Perception. My LinkedIn is just Jessica Petley, and those are my main avenues that you can find me at. So come join me and say hi. I love meeting and getting to know new people, so don't be shy.
Okay, I won't. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica, for all your, just sharing your story because sometimes it is very difficult to be able to be vulnerable in front of a large audience. Sometimes, people don't want to share their stories, but I know you do have it posted up on your website and everything, which again, just being able to share it out openly is incredible and wonderful. So thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
Your time this evening. We really do appreciate that, your knowledge, and of course your services. Without you, I'm sure some of these wonderful businesses couldn't be the way they are today without your help. So we appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Well, thank you
You're
so
very
much for
welcome.
having me. I had a lot of fun. Anybody who
Okay,
has the opportunity to be interviewed should jump at it. So
absolutely. Okay, have a great evening, and yeah, thank everyone for. I think you are married and that. So just make sure they know I'm very appreciative of your time. That's all, because it's